Your sun is not very exciting. Don't get me wrong, it's pretty reliable. Most days it's stable. Now and then it can be a bit funny. It's the safe star to choose to settle down and grow old with. But what if you're young and you want to live a little? Explore your options. Well, I have some options for you, 8 to be exact. Candidate number 1, Thorne-Zytkow Objects. Our first candidate describes itself as having a unique background and warm, glowing dual personalities. A Thorne-Zytkow object starts as 2 separate stars. One is a red giant that's enormous, old, radiating steady warmth. The other is a neutron star. It's tiny, dead, and made almost entirely of neutrons packed so tightly that a teaspoon of it weighs more than 1 billion tons. At some point, these two end up in orbit around each other. The neutron star drifts too close. The red giant's gravity pulls it in, and the neutron star sinks slowly through the red giant's outer layers like a marble dropped into fog. Once the neutron star reaches the core, it settles in and becomes the red giant's new heart, a dead star beating quietly inside a living one. Normal stars fuse hydrogen and helium and stop. A Thorne-Zytkow object with a neutron star driving reactions at its center, it can fuse heavier elements. It produces molybdenum, rubidium, and lithium in quantities nothing else in the universe generates. Your best candidate in the entire known universe is HV2112. It sits in the small Magellanic Cloud, roughly 200,000 light-years away, though even its status has been debated and no TZO has been fully confirmed. It glows red and it's brighter than it should be, suggesting it might be a star that survived by taking the remains of something dead and making it part of itself. Now that is resilience. However, the arrangement is not stable forever. The neutron star accretes too much material, collapses further, likely into a black hole, and triggers a supernova from the inside out. And the red giant that spent hundreds of years absorbing this thing gets destroyed by it. Now, if you choose this star as your lifelong partner, Earth would orbit at the same distance, but receive dramatically different radiation. The exotic stellar wind loaded with rubidium, molybdenum, and lithium continuously bombarding the atmosphere. The star is also more luminous than the sun, so Earth warms significantly over millions of years as the oceans begin a slow evaporation. But the real problem is the ending. When the neutron star core collapses and triggers the internal supernova, Earth is inside the blast radius. The planet is vaporized in the explosion of something it had been orbiting for millions of years without ever knowing what was coming. I'm putting you down as intrigued but cautious. Candidate number 2, Wolf-Rayet stars. Our second candidate describes itself as extremely passionate and looking for someone who can keep up. Let us discuss what keeping up would actually involve. A Wolf-Rayet star is between 20 and several hundred times the mass of the Sun. Surface temperature between 25,000 and over 200,000 degrees Celsius. Your Sun manages about 5,500. This star is not trying harder, it simply has no off switch. The radiation pressure inside a Wolf-Rayet star continuously blasts its own surface material into space. In its free time, it produces stellar winds so dense they compress surrounding nebulae into spectacular glowing shells visible across thousands of light years. It generates X-ray emissions bright enough to be detected from other galaxies. It creates some of the most visually stunning structures in the observable universe purely as a byproduct of existing. Every 100,000 years, it loses a mass equal to your entire Sun, and it keeps going. The end is a gamma-ray burst, the most energetic explosion the universe is capable of producing. More energy in 10 seconds than your Sun will generate in its entire 10 billion-year lifetime. What remains is a black hole or neutron star inside an expanding debris shell racing outward at a fraction of the speed of light. Now, if you choose this star to settle down with, Earth would not survive long enough to experience most of what a Wolf-Rayet star does. The stellar wind alone would begin stripping the atmosphere within years of the swap. The ozone layer goes first. Surface life is exposed to lethal UV and X-ray radiation within decades. The oceans begin boiling as the intense heat raises temperatures far beyond anything Earth has ever experienced. The planet would eventually be consumed as the star expands before its final collapse. And then the gamma-ray burst finishes whatever the stellar wind started. Luminous, passionate, will most certainly kill you, but is it worth it? I'll let you decide. Next candidate. Candidate number 3, Blue Stragglers. Our third candidate would like you to know that it is young at heart and looking great for their age. In very old star clusters, every star formed from the same cloud at the same time. They should all dim together, cool together, and die together. One star refuses. It stays blue and bright when everything around it has gone dim and cool. It looks young in a cluster where everything else is old and winding down. Scientists named it a blue straggler because it's straggling behind the dying process, while every other star in the cluster has accepted their situation. There are two ways this happens. The first is theft. The blue straggler drifted close to a companion star and slowly pulled mass away from it. Extra mass gives the star more fuel. More fuel means a longer, hotter life. The companion slowly lost what it needed to survive. The second is a merger. Two old stars collided and combined. The added mass reset the new star's age entirely. Either way, it'll outlive everything around it. Eventually, the stolen or merged fuel runs out. Because the blue straggler is more massive than its neighbors, it burns through its reserves faster than a normal star. When it goes, it dies in a supernova more violent than anything its cluster has produced. Blue stragglers are hotter and more luminous than a star their apparent age should be. Placed at the sun's distance, Earth would receive significantly more radiation and heat. The planet would warm rapidly. Within millions of years, the oceans evaporate and the atmosphere is stripped by elevated stellar wind. If the straggler formed through a merger, it may also be more variable in output, creating unpredictable radiation spikes. When it finally exhausts its stolen fuel and explodes in a supernova, Earth is vaporized. But while it lasts, you'd have an absolute zaddy of a star. Next candidate. Candidate number 4, population 3 stars. Unfortunately, our fourth candidate isn't really available. They came, created everything, then dipped. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. For the first several hundred million years, there were no stars. There was hydrogen, there was helium, there was complete, unbroken darkness. Then, the first gas clouds collapsed under their own weight. Pressure at their centers became sufficient, and something ignited. The first stars were enormous, possibly 1,000 times the mass of your sun. They burned at temperatures the modern universe cannot replicate, made of almost nothing but hydrogen and helium because nothing heavier existed yet. They burned fast. A star 1,000 times more massive than yours might have lasted only 1,000,000 years. Your sun has been running for 4.6 billion. These stars came and went before the universe was old enough to form planets. When they died, they exploded. Those explosions scattered the first heavy elements into space: carbon, oxygen, iron. Before these stars died, those elements did not exist anywhere in the universe. The carbon in your body was forged in the core of one of these stars. When it exploded, that carbon scattered into space, eventually became part of the cloud that built your solar system, became part of Earth's chemistry, and is now sitting inside every cell you have. You have never seen one. Not a single population 3 star has been directly observed. They're all gone. They burned and disappeared before anything existed to look at them. You know they existed because the universe contains elements that could only have come from them. While you can't choose one of these stars as your fated mate, the yearning would make a wonderful star-crossed story. Candidate number 5, symbiotic stars. Our fifth candidate presents itself as a committed long-term thinker and described by associates as quietly building towards something. A symbiotic star system pairs a red giant with a white dwarf. The red giant is enormous and aging. It's slowly losing material as it expands. The white dwarf is a collapsed stellar remnant. It's small, dense, and very focused. They've been orbiting each other for millions of years, the white dwarf quietly collecting whatever the red giant sheds. In its free time, and the white dwarf has a great deal of free time, it stages what astronomers call a nova. When the collected hydrogen on its surface reaches critical pressure, it ignites in a surface explosion that increases its brightness by tens of thousands of times in hours. Then, the white dwarf starts collecting again. This cycle repeats: collection, pressure, explosion, quiet, collection again. Building toward the Chandrasekhar limit, the maximum mass a white dwarf can hold. When it crosses that line, the entire star ignites at once. At that point, it does not nova. It becomes a Type 1a supernova, one of the most luminous events in the observable universe. Placing a binary system where the sun is immediately creates an orbital problem: 2 gravitational centers instead of 1. Earth's orbit becomes chaotic within thousands of years. But even if it somehow maintains stability, the red giant provides less usable light than the sun, and Earth begins cooling toward a global ice age. Then the nova cycles start. Every time the white dwarf detonates, Earth receives a radiation burst tens of thousands of times brighter than normal sunlight. Atmospheres do not survive this on repeat, and when the white dwarf finally crosses the Chandrasekhar limit and becomes a Type 1a supernova, Earth does not survive that either. The patience here is extraordinary. Most things give up long before the explosion. It's a candidate worth considering at least. Candidate number 6, carbon stars. Our 6th candidate would like you to know it has a distinctive look. Most stars appear white from space. Your sun looks pale yellow from Earth because the atmosphere scatters shorter wavelengths. Remove the atmosphere and it's white. Ordinary. This star is not white. Carbon stars are red giants that have pushed carbon from their cores to their surfaces during thermal pulsing. The interior convex, carbon-rich material rides upward, and once it reaches the surface, it absorbs almost everything. What remains is red. The deeper the carbon layer, the deeper, more saturated, more aggressively red the star becomes. Some carbon stars appear dark orange. Some appear deep ruby. A few are so red they look like balls of coal. In its free time, the carbon star sheds its outer layers in slow, continuous stellar winds, releasing carbon-rich material into surrounding space in glowing shells that drift outward for millions of years. TX Piscium, one of the most well-known examples, is visible to the naked eye from 760 light-years away. Carbon stars do not explode. They shed their outer layers entirely into a planetary nebula, a glowing shell of ejected gas expanding slowly outward, illuminated by the cooling core left behind. That core becomes a white dwarf and slowly fades over billions of years. Carbon stars are cool and red, producing a lot of infrared radiation and relatively little visible light compared to the sun. If you were to choose it to be your main star, Earth would receive less usable energy, and surface temperatures would drop significantly. The carbon-rich stellar winds would coat Earth's upper atmosphere in carbon particles, deepening the cooling further. The carbon particles would fundamentally alter atmospheric composition over time. Life as it exists would not survive the transition. The planet itself would remain intact until the star sheds its outer layers into a planetary nebula, at which point Earth finds itself inside the expanding shell of expelled material, bathed in radiation from a star in the process of dying around it. But this might be the most Instagram-ready star on this list. Doesn't that deep red just call to you? Candidate number 7, flare stars. Our 7th candidate is described as calm, low maintenance, and easy to be around, enjoys long, quiet periods, occasional spontaneous light shows, and is looking for someone who doesn't need a lot of warning. Red dwarf stars are the smallest, dimmest, most numerous stars in the galaxy. They burn at low temperatures, consume their fuel efficiently, and some will outlast the current age of the universe. Flare stars are red dwarfs. Most of the time they behave. They're dim, calm, and unremarkable. You could orbit one for years and not notice anything unusual. Then, with no warning, it releases a flare, a burst that increases the star's brightness by a factor of 100 in minutes. A wave of X-ray and ultraviolet radiation intense enough to strip the upper atmosphere from a nearby planet in a single event. A lethal radiation dose delivered faster than any biological system can respond. The flare lasts minutes. Then the star goes quiet again, as if nothing happened, as if it didn't just sterilize its planets. The most famous flare star is Proxima Centauri. It's the closest star to Earth besides the Sun and flares multiple times per day. The planet in its habitable zone, Proxima Centauri b, receives regular sterilizing radiation doses, which is probably why it has no confirmed life. Red dwarf stars make up approximately 75% of all stars in the Milky Way. Most of them flare. The galaxy is statistically mostly made of these. Flare stars don't explode. They simply burn out. After tens of trillions of years, they exhaust their reserves and cool from red to orange to a theoretical black dwarf. A flare star at the sun's distance provides far less heat and light. Earth begins cooling within decades. Within centuries, the oceans start freezing over. Within thousands of years, Earth is a frozen world. Liquid water may only be preserved deep beneath miles of ice, like Jupiter's moon, Europa. Then the flare starts. It delivers a radiation dose to a frozen, thinly atmosphered Earth that sterilizes the surface completely. The flare ends and the planet goes dark and cold again. This repeats with no pattern for trillions of years because the flare star is not going anywhere. The last living thing on Earth, if anything survives the first freeze and the random radiation doses, dies in a quiet flash on a frozen planet orbiting a dim star. Billy, I think this one's a real contender. It's long-lived, undemanding. Sure, there's the spontaneous sterilization, but I bet it's an excellent listener. Candidate number 8, variable stars. Our final candidate describes itself as reliable and consistent, and is looking for someone who appreciates precision. Some stars pulse. They expand and contract in a cycle that can last days, months, or years. Their brightness rises and falls in a pattern you can track from Earth. The most reliable kind is called a Cepheid variable. A Cepheid variable pulses with precise, reliable timing. The longer its cycle, the more luminous it actually is. This is the period luminosity relationship. If you know the cycle length, you know the star's true brightness. Compare that to how bright it appears from Earth. The difference tells you exactly how far away it is. This is how scientists first measured the size of the universe. A woman named Henrietta Swan Leavitt discovered this in 1908 while working as a human computer at the Harvard College Observatory. She was one of the women hired to analyze photographic plates because it was considered clerical work. She was not permitted to operate the telescopes. From plates she was given to catalog, she identified 1,777 variable stars, noticed the pattern, and published the relationship that cosmology still uses today to measure the universe. The most famous variable star in your night sky is Betelgeuse. It's the bright red star in the upper left corner of Orion. It's dimmed and brightened for as long as humans have watched it. In 2019, it dimmed so dramatically that astronomers thought it might be about to explode. It did not explode. It will explode, possibly not for another 100,000 years, but at some point, Betelgeuse will go supernova. When it does, it'll be visible in daylight from Earth for weeks. Betelgeuse is roughly 1,000 times larger than the Sun. If placed where the Sun is, its surface would extend well past Earth's orbit. Earth would be inside the star. The planet would be vaporized long before it reached the core. If the Sun was replaced by a smaller Cepheid variable, Earth would experience the pulsation cycle as regular swings in heat and light, warming as the star brightens, cooling as it dims, on cycles of days to months. Nothing capable of photosynthesis or stable biochemistry survives that kind of rhythmic climate instability. And when the variable eventually explodes, Earth receives the supernova at point-blank range. It would be the most beautiful thing in your night sky. Visuals absolutely worth dying for. There you have it. 8 candidates, 8 extraordinary stars. Every one of them remarkable. Now, Billy, which one do you choose? I'd rather just stick to the Sun. Of course you would. How about you? Which star do you think was a tall glass of sunshine? Leave a comment below. And while you're at it, check out this next video. Who are you talking to? Shh.